Hey, everybody. Well, we're going to have to start over, Val.
Okay.
We have played the commercial. We have played the disclosure. We played the music, but I don't want to go back to that. So we've said hi to everybody. So we're going to have to do this. Yep, I see. I don't know. Are we? I'm so sorry, guys, because Grizzly just said that are we live, but I'm not showing that we are on my phone. But here we go. Okay, good. Okay, so let's say hi to everybody, and I want to welcome everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulties. This is my first time, running the. I'm here to help out Val today. First time running the board or the technical stuff. Let's say hello to Lorna, Henry, Sunny, Dirt Road Bigfoot. This sounds familiar, doesn't it, Val?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We thought we were live, guys. Sorry. Hey, Grizzly, because I know you're listening and we thought we were live, but we were not. Grizzly's enjoying his Father's Day, I hope, today. Sunny, Val, Southwest PA, Catherine, Denise. Thank you to our lovely moderators for helping us out. Thanks so much. Let's see. Did I get everybody? Kathy A, Amy. I said Henry, Lorna. All right. I think Judy. Hi, Judy. And Penny Van. All right. So welcome, everybody. And I think we've got it now. So, Val, as I ask you off the air, but I will ask you again. Happy Father's Day. How was your Father's Day?
Thank you. And it's just wonderful. Being with family is a special blessing. And I think anybody that's a father or a mother or a parent would appreciate that. So it's a very special occasion. But before we get started, let me give salutes out to the military veterans.
Absolutely.
And also handshakes, backpacks to the first responders. And remember to say a prayer to the homeless people, the unfortunate. They need your help too. They need your blessings. So, with that, I think we got a pretty good guest coming up here.
Yes. Without further ado, let's bring him down. We have Dr. Matthew Johnson. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about
Hello, everybody. Happy Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Same to you. Happy Father's Day.
So can you real quick and briefly give the audience, the listening audience who's never heard of you before and not familiar with your works, Dr. Johnson, can you give them a brief bio and explain how you got into this and what you've been working on?
Okay, quick bio. I'll give the bio I give to my clients when our first day of therapy so they know who they're working with. Mm-hmm. Grew up in Salem, Oregon, moved to Anchorage, Alaska in 1980 on a basketball scholarship to the University of Alaska. Got to play college ball against Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, Clyde Drexler, James Worthy, all those guys. Got asked to play for the New Jersey Nets in the NBA, turned them down. They sucked. They were the worst team in the NBA, and I would have been the bench warmer for the worst team in the NBA. Not a good career decision. So I decided to go to school. Went to Rutgers, got my master's degree in social work, then went to George Fox, got another master's degree and a doctorate degree in psychology. And I wrote a parenting book, spoke in 80 cities a year for 12 years, so all 50 states several times, spoke in most of Canada at the World Family Therapy Conference in Europe, training counselors from around the world. And now I'm doing private practice. Now I'm going to hit the rewind button and go back because I don't say this to my clients, and this is what you want me to tell your audience. Mm-hmm. Is July 1st, 2000. My family and we had just moved down from Alaska 6 months earlier, and we were going for a hike on the mountain above the Oregon Caves National Monument Park, and that's where we ran into a Bigfoot. And then life changed after that. So I've been out in the field for 24 years. I grew up in the woods. I spent 20 years as an Alaska resident. I know all the wild animals, not afraid of anything, but what I saw, you saw a bear. No, I did not see a bear. I know what a bear looks like. That was not a bear. And so I had the opportunity to either be scared and never go back into the woods ever again, or to go back into the woods, grab Bigfoot by the scruff of the neck and drag him back out for the world to see that he's real and I'm not crazy. But it turned out that Bigfoot grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, dragged me into the woods, and showed me who he is, who they are, where they're from, and why they're here.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think they're here?
Why are they here?
Yes.
Well, we need to go back to where are they from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God, all life comes from God. God is the creator of all life. And this is a vast universe. There's a lot of planets out there. We are not the only species alive on a planet. Period. That's silly. And so they were actually created by God and they were on another planet. But unlike the human race, we fell in the garden. We told God to take a hike. We disobeyed his rule and ate of the fruit. And so we fell. And as a result, we're all disconnected from one another. We're disconnected from God and we're disconnected from the planet he gave us to be good stewards of. That's why we steal, cheat, lie, rape, go to war. And the Janu, the Bigfoot forest people, refer to themselves as the Janu. They didn't fall. They didn't get disconnected from one another or from God. And so anyway, they were on their own planet and their sun was dying. And they were aware of portals, and 25% of their population had the ability to manipulate portals. So they managed to make their way after exploring a lot of possibilities. They ended up on the earth and they're here. So that's where they're from, and that's why they're here, and who they are our fellow children of God. They are believers in God and they walk by faith in Christ, and they actually heal by faith in Christ. We host a camp on our mountaintop. We live on a mountaintop, 61 acres of forested property, surrounded by thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of forested property. And we host camps up here every summer, and they're here and they interact with the campers during the camp weekends, and they have provided healings. I sent you a testimonial the other day of a gal that had her foot healed by faith in Christ, and her husband saw it happening. And it's who they are is not. I'll tell you who they're not. They are not. They are not descendants of Gigantopithecus. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. And they're not dumb giant mountain apes that we just can't find. That's silly. And that theory should have been thrown out the window a long time ago. I mean, if they were dumb giant mountain apes, they would have been found a long time ago. And they're not dumb giant mountain apes. They're actually beings of light. They can shapeshift into orb form and back into their full body form. They vibrate at a higher frequency than we do, which takes them out of our visual field of range. Cats can see them, dogs can see them, cameras can capture them, and that's why you see so many blurry pictures of Bigfoot. Why are the pictures always blurry? They're blurry because they're vibrating at a higher frequency. And that's why they're blurry. And when people take those pictures, they don't necessarily see them in their camera. They're just snapping pictures. And then they go over their pictures later and say, look, here's a Bigfoot, but it's blurry because they're vibrating at a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So they can slow down their vibrational frequency to full body form like us, like Patty did in 1967 in Bluff Creek. And she did that intentionally to get our attention because they needed help for someone to help them with a portal and to help the rest of their family and friends come over from their dying home world to the earth. And that's what we did in June of 2016, 8 years ago. So there's a lot. Just dump that dump truck right on you.
I hear you.
Full of information.
That's great.
Boom.
Matt, you referred to their planet. What is their planet, in your opinion?
What do you mean? What is their planet?
Well, where is it? What's the name of it?
It's
Where is it
beyond,
located in the constellation?
It's beyond where we can see.
Okay.
It's not ours. It's not Saturn or Uranus.
Understood.
Or
in the
Understood. Yeah. So when you say that they received that help in 2016, what exactly did they receive?
Well, again, only 25% of their population could manipulate the portals, and when they did, they could only take themselves through the portal. They couldn't take anybody else with them.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an exodus a long time ago, and 25% of their population that could manipulate the portals came to the earth. The other 75% were left behind. And slowly but surely, over a long period of time, their sun was burning out. Now, in order to feed, the orb goes into the tree and draws all the sunlight from the sun through the tree, and then nutrients through the roots. And that's how they charge. The trees are their docking stations, they're charging ports. And when they're charged up, they come back out of the tree, and then they come back in their full body form. And so anyway, they needed help, and Steve Bachman created, off of Tesla's designs, an electromagnetic pulsating device, and we were able to haul that up into the mountains, way in the middle of nowhere, at about a 5,000 foot elevation, and we had the electromagnetic device on the tailgate of the truck with 2 deep cycle marine batteries to power it, and you could literally hear the flat-footed running to the back of the tailgate. You couldn't see them because, again, they're vibrating at a higher frequency. And they would charge themselves up with the electromagnetic pulsating device, and then they'd run back to the portal. So they were just this never-ending stream of Jean doing this, and they were keeping the portals open at both ends so everybody else could come through. So that's what they needed help with. And we got the last bit through, and their world's dead. Their sun is dead.
Wow.
So they're all here now.
So in the paranormal world, from that which I've read and familiar with, it seems to me that the soul, the spirit of a human being, a living person, incarnate, also goes through the same similar procedures. I mean, the spirit leaves the body. You called it portal. In another section of the paranormal world, they call it white lights that the spirit looks for to leave and to go into a higher plane. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, we're not talking about that. That's not what they do.
Mm-hmm. But you're talking about you're talking about a circle, a portal, right?
Portals. There are short portals. There are long portals. Short portals are from one point on the earth to another point on the earth. Long portals are from one planet to another planet. It's not about life after death, going to heaven, all that. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about portals, not a gateway to heaven.
So, Dr. J, we had a question. I'm sorry, excuse me. How was your experience filming Terror in the Woods, and was it accurate?
We were misled. Terror in the Woods, we were just asked to just come and share our experience, and then when we saw it aired on TV, they turned it into a near-death experience, all fear and all that kind of stuff, and that wasn't the experience. Now, I was terrified, and you'll see video of me in the interviews, shortly after the encounter, where I'm all worked up and I'm emotional, but it wasn't because it was a near-death experience. It was, I created the fear in my own head. I didn't know. And at that point in time, Bigfoot was myth and legend, and there it was, and it was like
Yeah.
it wasn't myth and legend. And I had my wife and 3 small kids, and I didn't have anything to defend us. And I saw this Bigfoot uncloak, come, appear out of nowhere, uncloak, walk behind a tree, and watch my wife and kids while I was up the hill farther, doing my business behind the trees and the brush. And then, pulled up my pants and came running back down. And when he saw me running back down, he cloaked again. He disappeared. So now I'm traumatized because we're dead. We're dead. I'm almost 7 feet tall. And what I saw made me look like a little kid. How am I going to protect my wife and my children from whatever this thing is? And so there was fear, but it wasn't near death. It was created in my head. And a lot of people have similar experiences. They don't know what they're dealing with. It's scary because you don't know what you're dealing with. And then, they give their stories about how they were chased by Bigfoot, near death, all that kind of stuff. And reality is they weren't chased by Bigfoot, because if they were, Bigfoot would have caught them. And Bigfoot's not some slow, uncoordinated thing that can't catch a human being running through the woods. So nobody got chased. Some people get hurted. Some people get pushed out of the woods, but nobody gets chased because they'd get caught. Bigfoot is fast. Bigfoot could catch them. Bigfoot doesn't catch them. They just kind of shoo them out of the woods. Get out of here. We don't want you here. But this one was gentle. There was nothing scary about it other than what I did in my head. So my wife and I were misled by that film production.
We had another question. So their son is dead. Is that from overcharging, or do you know why? Did they say why their son died?
Their son just died out. Sons die out.
Yeah. Okay.
They burn up their fuel. They die out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. This universe has been around for a long time. Long, long time. God made this a long time ago.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep. So
you say that people were never chased by Bigfoots and Sasquatches?
They're herded out. They're pushed out. I'm saying the choice of the words is inappropriate. If I'm going to chase my kid through the house because he did something wrong and I'm going to catch him I'm going to catch him. He's not going to outrun me. So if I'm chasing my kid, I'm going to catch my kid. So when people say Bigfoot chased me, that's an inappropriate choice of words. It's Bigfoot pushed me out, herded me out, didn't want me here, knocked down a few trees to intimidate me to get me to leave. Because the way they don't look at it is we're in their home. And if they don't want us in their home, they're going to do what they need to do to get us out of their home.
Of course. Makes sense.
So if you chase something, you catch it. If a leopard chases a gazelle, it's going to catch the gazelle. It chases, it catches it. You don't chase and just not catch it.
Yes.
So they're just shooing them out. Get out of here. Get out of here. Go. Keep going. I'm going to boom, boom, boom with my feet and knock trees over and maybe yell a little bit, but get out of here. That's all that's going on. Nobody got caught. Nobody got killed. Nobody got, they weren't chased. They were shooed.
So Ryan Barber's asking, Dr. J, what do you think they will do now that they are here and their world is gone? Will they travel to other places?
Okay. So they're here. This is their home world now. And they're here to help us reconnect with God, with Christ, and to be better stewards of the earth that God gave us. That's what they're here for. We've had people come to camp and find God for the first time in their life, or renew their faith and their commitment in God and in Christ. And again, I've told you, we've had people healed. We've had cancer healed. We've had irreversible eye disease healed. We've had 19 kidney stones removed. We've had a leg grow an inch to match the other leg. We've had all kinds of healings here. They removed a big blood clot from my leg that went from my groin to my knee that should have killed me. And the doctor said it was a miracle, that I should have died from it. So that's why they're here. That's what they're doing. Now, let's talk real quick, because this was brought up before we went on the air. Two kinds of Bigfoot. Well, no, there's not two kinds of Bigfoot. There's two separate species that look similar to one another. The Bigfoot forest people, aka the Janu, they're the beings I'm talking about. They're beings of light. They can shapeshift in and out of their body form. And that's what the human race was created to do until we told God to kiss off in the garden. Then we got locked into our meat sacks. Okay. So we weren't so much cursed as a result of that. God just more or less was the bearer of bad news that, okay, well, since you rebelled and you're locked in your meat sacks, you're going to have pain in childbirth now. You don't get to conceive and give birth in orb form. You have to conceive and give birth in physical form, and that's going to hurt. And now you got to toil the weeds, the soil, the ground, and battle the weeds for your food. And now you got to make, shelter, clothes, all that kind of stuff. Where if we wouldn't have told God to kiss off in the garden, we would have had the same lifestyle that the Janu have today, which is we would have the earth to be one with God, to be one with one another. And as orbs, we could pop into the trees, get our sustenance, and pop back out. But now we're locked into our meat sacks. So we have to have clothes, right? We have to have clothes, and we have to have a house, and we have to have shelter, and we have to work jobs and food and all that kind of stuff. They don't. They have life easy peasy. Now, the second species, the other type of Bigfoot, which isn't really a Bigfoot, it's a Tracon. They were shanghaied from their home world by an alien species, brought to Earth to mine the planet for precious metals and other ores. And once they got everything they needed, they abandoned them and left them behind. And then during human history, they would have battles. There's stories of the Vikings coming from Norway and battling the big hairy people in the northeast corner of Canada. And the Tracon have a habit of losing to, the human species. So then they learn to retreat deep into the wilderness to get away from the human species. But if a human hiker, camper, hunter ends up in their lair deep in the forest, they will kill them, they will eat them, and they will scatter their bones. They will occasionally kidnap a female for breeding purposes, and sometimes a male for breeding purposes when their breeding pool is limited where they are. And hence you have Dr. Melba Ketchum's DNA study of a female human and an unknown male. Okay, and that would be the Tracon. Albert Osterman was kidnapped in his sleeping bag because the Tracon will do that. But most often they'll just kill a human, eat a human, scatter their bones. And occasionally they'll make their way to the edge of rural properties to grab, some livestock, grab a sheep, grab a pig, grab a small cow, and haul it off to go eat it.
What you're speaking of, I see a lot of this in these databases. And I've often wondered where the blonde-haired, blue-eyed complexions and the hairs and stuff come from. It's not just the brown eyes, the dark hair, but we're seeing blonde hair blue eyes, blonde-haired, green eyes, and it surely takes on a situation where not only do we see a mixed match of complexions and makeups and physical appearances, there's even reports of negroid Bigfoots, with the hair, the nose features, the complected skin. So it's quite an array of different types of people that these Sasquatches are appearing in.
The Janu look different from one another, just like we look different. You look at three of us on this screen right now. We don't look the same.
No.
And the Janu are also different. Now, the difference between Janu and the Tracon are that the Janu are much bigger, much taller, and more human looking, where the Tracon are more, they're uglier, they're shorter, they're in the 6 to 8 foot range, 9 foot at the most. And they are violent, they're nefarious, and they're menacing looking. They're butt ugly. And so, somebody says, well, how do I know if I'm out in the forest and I run into a Janu versus I run into a Tracon? Well, if you run into a Janu, you'll have an encounter, and, eventually everyone goes their separate ways, right? But with the Tracon, if you're alone and you're out there and you run into them, you're a nice meal. That's how you'll know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You won't live to tell somebody about it, but that's how you'll know the difference.
Three can keep a secret if two are dead. I agree. I agree.
We have questions backing up. I'm sorry, everybody's asking so many questions. Pamela asked, do you believe there are also hybrid Bigfoot created by something other than God?
All I know is what I know, and so I'll only comment on what I know.
Certainly.
So I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert on everything. I know a lot. There's a lot. I mean, I got truckloads of stuff I haven't shared with you guys, but I'm only going to comment on what I know. So,
as a licensed clinical psychologist, are you ever tempted to go out and diagnose people, witnesses, people that make Bigfoot reports, Matt?
I don't work for free. So the answer is no. If you come into my office and you want me to evaluate you, then I will. My family had the encounter news shot around the world. I was on 15 TV shows. The first spring conference when I was living and practicing in Oregon at the spring conference for the Oregon Psychological Association, the president of the organization was up front, and there's like several hundred of us in this hotel ballroom. And he says, "Will Dr. Matthew Johnson please stand up?" And I'm like, what's going on here? I don't know this guy. I don't know. Somebody's like pushing me from behind. Stand up, stand up. He's asking to stand up. So I stand up and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, here's the psychologist that saw Bigfoot." And I applaud his courage and I believe him. And then I got a standing ovation.
Nice.
From a room full of psychologists.
Wow. That's awesome.
That kind of makes you feel good when you're measured and examined by your own peers and stuff. And yeah, it's pretty different. I noticed that and I've been involved in the Bigfoot community for a few years. And a few years ago, there was something that somebody put out, and I don't believe that they were a licensed clinical psychologist, but it was to the effect of BOB. Are you familiar with that term, BOB, Bob? Bigfoot on the brain? Somebody, somebody was making their clinical diagnoses of witnesses. I take it as a mockery.
Yeah.
It's like me trying to pretend to be an attorney and making it, or a doctor and making a diagnosis on somebody over the internet and stuff. I don't like that, and I've never received that well whenever I read this. But there's a lot of punishment and a lot of pain that goes with witnesses of Bigfoots and stuff.
Yeah, PTSD. I had PTSD.
Exactly.
You
did
PTSD.
with your encounter.
Yeah, my encounter created PTSD, but again, it wasn't because it was life-threatening. It was because I didn't know then what I know now. If I knew then what I know now, I would have walked up to him and tried to give him a hug. If I knew then what I know now, that's what I would have done. But I didn't know then, so I was scared to death, and that was all in my head. It had nothing to do with the Bigfoot. I did see a question by somebody: does the government know stuff that we don't want them to know, or they don't want us to know that they know? So I told you we live on 61 acres on a mountaintop, and we have Janu here living with us. Okay. And I sent you pictures. I even sent you the picture of the Janu by Steve Bachman's electromagnetic pulsating device. And when I took that picture, I couldn't see it, but the camera captured it. We have a portal right there in that area. And so we have military helicopters hovering over our property all the time. And we have had them hovering over our garden area by the garage, shining the light down on the portal area. I also have audio recordings because I use a parabolic microphone dish a lot and record audio on the property, and of 3-letter agency operatives on our property trying to befriend them. So they most definitely know they're here, and we must be doing something right if the government is showing that much interest to continually hover over our property and put boots on the ground.
Are you familiar with Dr. H.A. Miller and his writings?
No.
This is a gentleman that started out very, very early as he's a Harvard graduate. He's a PhD and doctor, and got into employment with the U.S. Agricultural Department, working different jobs and stuff. And somehow in his dying declaration, he penned out a short biography of himself and some of the things that he's learned along the way. And he issues a couple warnings to people about the Sasquatch. He doesn't call him Xenu. He doesn't call him Bigfoot. He doesn't call him Sasquatch, but he calls them celebatides or something. I'll send you a copy of this if you're interested in reading it. But in this, he leaves a couple caveats in there, in which he says that the government has to create a larger and larger area for these individuals. And if they don't, because of the very nature of these beings, these individuals, they're omnivores, which I think all of us are pretty familiar with that, and they're predacious and opportunistic. And he says that the Bigfoot Sasquatch, in his opinion, this is a former government employee, can never coexist. This is what he wrote in this document here. And as a data miner, Matt, I collect, as you know, hundreds of thousands of reports, and I look at them and analyze them and stuff. And just as you said about the helicopter, there's a report out of Michigan similar to that, in which a private owner whose property separates two parts of national parks in Michigan. And one day he reports that he hears a lot, him and his wife and whoever they had for a guest, hear a lot of tree breaking, crashing through the woods. They turn and look, and they see a large black Sasquatch running through the woods at a very fast pace, crossing his yard right there in front of them and into the other part of the forest on the other side of their property. And in hot pursuit, they say there was a large OD green helicopter unmarked in hot pursuit with the nose tipped down, obviously following this individual. I don't know what's going on, but that's not the only one. There's another one that comes out very similar to this out of Indiana. A couple truck drivers, husband and wife team driving along, and they see the same thing. They see the helicopters in pursuit of Bigfoot Sasquatches.
Tracon.
You think that's what it was?
They can't pursue the Janu. The Janu, they can't see him except with their technological equipment. And like I said, I have them recorded on my property, trying to interact with them, trying to develop a relationship. And the Janu told them where to put it. By the way, they do have a language, unlike Meldrum. He just announced on Facebook a week ago that the Bigfoot don't have a language. I'm like, dude, I have truckloads of audio recordings of the Janu speaking in a language. I have them recorded speaking in their own language, which I humorously call Squatchanese. And then I have them recorded speaking in English, and I have them recorded speaking in Greek. And a friend of mine in Georgia has himself recorded conversing with them out in the forest in Spanish.
Wow.
I've just had a thread on my group site about this probably a month ago, and I've tracked this again. I'm looking at patterns, and these are some of the patterns that I've seen. I've seen reports of Sasquatch, Zanu, possibly speaking Russian, Chinese, Spanish, and German, and English. Of course, there's a terrific old report out of I want to say Connecticut, in which three men walking from a town after midnight encounter a large black Sasquatch. Again, is this what you're referring to as Zanu? But this was completely friendly encounter. The Sasquatch asked the men in English, how far is it to the next town? And the men answered them, but they were terrified. This thing is huge, 9 foot tall. And they answer him, and off it goes trotting along and stuff. But this is a great report. This is one of the reports that I sent over to my good friend. He's an author of cryptozoology, Albert Rosales. But I told him about this, and there's others like this that I've found along the way that go back to the time of early American colonial English warring and stuff, where you got Sasquatch speaking perfectly good English, and they're dressed in some of them dressed in clothes, albeit they're too big for the clothes and stuff. The clothes are ragged, but the Sasquatch are speaking in good English, and they're telling the people, is the queen still alive? Is the king still alive? These are strange things, and the more that I'm involved in this, Matt, it boggles my mind. So I'm very, very glad that you came on today, because I've heard about you. I've read about your stuff. I think we've like two ships in the night. We pass and honk our horns. We say hello, but never had an opportunity to actually look at you and chit chat with you. but surely a lot of what you say gives me pause to reconsider and think about, you know, different points of view and stuff. And I appreciate that.
So at the bottom of my screen should be my name plus jeanu.com. People can go to that website and they can check out more information about
get you over here.
about
Sorry about that.
the jeanu.com.
I'm trying to move us around. Sorry, guys. Let me just yeah, forget it.
Okay, so
Okay.
xanue.com. They can order both of my books there. They can access my YouTube channel. I have almost 500 videos. If they go back to the oldest video and watch the journey from the beginning to now, they'll learn everything they need to know about Bigfoot. If they read both books, they'll know everything they need to know about Bigfoot. One thing I'd like to address is, you know, the trees that are pulled up out of the ground and then turned upside down and stuck back into the ground. You want to know how that's done?
How's that done, Matt?
They're able to change the vibrational frequency of that tree by grabbing it.
Wow.
And then they pull it out of the ground like butter. Then they invert the tree still with the high vibrational frequency, and they just easily slide it back into the ground, and then they let go and the tree is solid again. That's how they do that. One time we left our dogs in the kennel at home, and we have 5 dogs, and it was raining, it was cold, it was miserable, and we had next to that kennel a 500-gallon tank of water. And the jeanu saw that the dogs were miserable, and we have a mudroom door with a pet door. And so the jeanu went up to the kennel fence and raised the vibrational frequency of that fence to let the dogs out of the kennel. And when they did that, they also raised the vibrational frequency of the 500-gallon water tank, and all the water came out. So we come back home, our dogs are out of the kennel, there's no hole in the fence, the gate isn't open, and we have 500 gallons of water that got drained out of our tank without any hole, any crack, anything.
Wow.
And they said, sorry, we made a boo-boo. But that's how they take the trees. They raise the vibrational frequency, pull it up, easy peasy, it's weightless. They turn it around, they stick it back down in the ground like a hot knife through butter, and then they let go of the tree, and now it's all solid again, and there's the tree upside down in the ground.
And you're talking about inverted trees now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's how they also bend trees over, because you know, you'll see trees bent over. How did they bend a tree over? Like, because they shifted the vibrational frequency and bent the tree over and then let go. That's how they do it.
I didn't catch that last comment that popped
Oh,
up
that
there.
was just for Grizzly. It's okay. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah, we're talking about if you have any questions for Dr. J, please put them in all caps so we don't miss anything.
So if the vibrational paths are used for trees, would it be possible that is how the pyramids were created?
Yeah, by different species. The jeanu didn't make the pyramids, but yeah, you change the vibrational frequency of the object and it becomes more or less weightless. It's not solid.
And we don't have that technology.
No, we don't.
Are you familiar with Carrie Cassidy?
Somewhat, yes, I am.
Okay. Were you familiar with the gentleman, military man, that friend of hers, associate, that she was familiar with, that allegedly took a captive Sasquatch out of the country to another country to study it? Supposedly, it was held here in this country, And some of the things that this military officer told her that she put out there for public consumption was that the Sasquatch didn't matter where the Sasquatch was. It was able to communicate through thought, through all these other Sasquatch out there, where it was at, how it was being treated. Is this the reason why there's a big hush on Bigfoot Sasquatch, do you think? It seems to me that there's a military industry or something that's very interested in this technology.
There's a big hush with our government on a lot of things. So, you know, they're hush about a lot of things. A Janu is never caught. If they want to volunteer themselves to be with somebody, they could do that, but they're never caught because they can just shift their vibrational frequency and walk right through a wall. You don't capture a Janu. On the other hand, a Tracon, they're also a fallen species like humans, so they're locked into their meat sacks like we are, and you can catch a Tracon, you can kill a Tracon. And, you know, Columbus Day storm, we found some bodies. That was a Tracon. Mount St. Helens blew and we found some bodies. That was a Tracon.
You mentioned Columbus Day killed Sasquatch. From my study, my research,
Columbus Day storm.
It brings me back to 1963 or thereabouts in Washington. This is one of the events that Dr. H.A. Miller recounts in his biography, his study, the same thing. And so if I understand this correctly, you're saying that it wasn't the Janu, it was the other Tracon that did this. This is that.
The Janu vibrated at a higher frequency. They're beings of light. They're in orbs. They can do shapeshift into their body. When they die, there's no body left behind. Their soul, their spirit, their orb returns to God. Okay. So, but the Tracon, they're locked into their meat sacks like we are. And if they die, they're going to leave a body behind. So if the Columbus Day storm takes out a couple Tracon, or Mount St. Helens blows its top and they find some Bigfoot bodies, or there's a fire in California and there's a burned up Bigfoot that's asking for help, that's a Tracon.
And I think one of the things that Miller mentions in his works was that the Sasquatch had the reparative ability. In other words, if it was wounded, like we see in the Hollywood science fiction movies, they repair their body. The limb, if the limb is missing, they repair it. I don't know. But this sure seems like a lot of this stuff seems like the teleport on Star Trek, Hollywood Star Trek. You know, you're here one moment, you're another, wherever you want to go, you're there the next moment. And I think this is something that Tesla was talking about.
Yeah, Tesla said if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of vibration, frequency, and energy. And that's correct. Somebody had a question there about, I think the government is having Mildrum say that the Bigfoot don't have any speech. I highly doubt that the government is trying to control Dr. Mildrum and what he can and can't say. But I will say this. I think he's a nice guy. If you ever meet him, he'll come across as very nice. But I think what a lot of people have lost sight of is that his expertise is foot morphology. That's his expertise. Foot morphology.
Yes.
He's not an expert on anything else other than Bigfoot morphology.
Footprints. Yes.
That's
tracks.
But he gets invited to speak at a lot of conferences and everybody go, ooh, Meldrum, ooh. And he comments on a lot of other things, including Bigfoot doesn't have a language. It's like, dude, why don't you just stick to the feet and let the rest of us who've had boots on the ground for decades and who have truckloads of recordings to prove. I mean, look at the Sierra Sounds with Ron Moorhead.
Right,
And Scott Nelson,
Scott Nelson.
a linguist who says it's a spoken language.
Yes, yes.
But all of a sudden, Meldrum says there's no language. So, Meldrum, and it's like, dude, stick with the feet, with the feet, and let the rest of us do the other stuff, because all you know is the feet. And people think he knows more than what he knows. He doesn't know anything but the feet. And he's not out there boots on the ground. On the other hand, I've been boots on the ground for 24 years.
Well, let me see your fingernails. That's an inside joke, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
Dr. J, can they help us raise our frequency? A Little Twisted would like to know.
The answer is yes. When you come to camp here, we have the wood pile. The Council of 12 is usually behind there, and along with some of their kids. And so you stick your hand over the wood pile, and then they'll put their hand on top of your hand. And when they do, their higher vibrational frequency raises the vibrational frequency of your hand. And then all of a sudden, your fingers are disappearing, or your hands disappearing, because it's raising your own vibrational frequency outside of your own visual field of range. And then we have hugging jars where Kantu, the clan leader, and his wife Saria are behind the hugging jars. The women go to Saria, the men go to Kantu, get hugs. And when they get hugs, you'll see their bodies disappearing or fading in and fading out while their vibrational frequencies are being raised. And so the answer to that question is yes, because we have multiple witnesses who've seen that happen.
That's amazing. Amy would like to know, do you attribute the frequency to harmonics or electromagnetism?
Yes. You get what I said, right? Yes.
So both.
Yeah, both. Why is it one or the other?
Yes. And Little Twisted would like to know, how do they heal? Are they demigods?
No, I said at the beginning that they're fellow creations of God. They're fellow, and we chose to tell God to kiss off. So we're a fallen species where they didn't. And so Jesus said, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could do what I do and more. Well, they never fell. So they have faith the size of a coconut seed. And they can do what Jesus did and more by faith, not their demagogues. And they've gone out of their way to say, don't you dare worship us. Don't you dare pray to us. We're your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. So they've gone out of their way. And I have them recorded praising God. We love him. He's the Messiah, Jesus Christ. I have all kinds of recordings like that. These are not demons. And contrary to one comment a while ago, they are not Nephilim. The Nephilim were wiped out with the flood. That's why the flood occurred, was to wipe out the Nephilim. So this whole theory of Nephilim, they're Nephilim. It's like, did you not read your Bible? Did you not read that the flood was there to wipe them out? Do you think God didn't know what he was doing and that somehow the Nephilim still managed to live? No, they got wiped out. The Bigfoot and the Trachon, they're not the Nephilim.
What does Janu mean? Do you ever research that to find out what the meaning is?
See, I don't research. I talk to them and they tell me. So what I'm telling you is what they've told me. This isn't me researching. This is me telling you what they're telling me through mind speak. So
I'll do that. I'll research it and find out what it means.
What it means is the people of Christ.
Okay, I'll find out.
And they go by the X. The X is the Greek symbol for Chi. Christ.
The X is a symbol for what?
Chi. Greek
There's-
symbol chi, CHI, which represents Christ.
Yeah, there's a biblical scholar from South Africa that claims that the axe is a symbol of, it's a paranormal symbol of a sun goddess that points back to Lucifer, the axe itself.
I'm telling you what they tell me, and I have them recorded speaking in Greek and saying agathos, God is good. And, you know, you should be positive about living with us. That's right on my website. You can go to jeanu.com and right at the top of the website page, click on the little audio clip of agathos, God is good. You should be positive about living with us. And X, Greek X is Chi, and Chi is Christ. Doesn't matter what anybody else says. They're using Chi as their symbol. So when you go out in the forest and you see all these X's, that's Chi for Christ.
That's so great. I see. Oh, wow. I love that. That's, how long do they live? Little Twisted wants to know.
Okay, their average lifespan is about 3 times ours, so they'll live anywhere between 220 to 300 years.
Okay. And do they age at a different rate than we do?
3 times.
Okay. So they just, gotcha.
They age,
all right.
yeah. They just
All right.
live longer,
Okay.
so yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then we had another question. Have you had lots of reports of Bigfoot just walking? I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it. Just walking within 20 feet of a human and not even turning to acknowledge them, not to even
Well, I don't get reports. I'm not a report center. Am I aware of reports? Yeah, just like anybody else. I might dabble and read some stories, and they're cool stories. But when I listen to them, I'm listening to them, figuring out, is this a Janu they interacted with, or is this a Tracon they interacted with? Like the killer Bigfoot in Alaska. That's Tracon. Tracon came in and did that. Janu would never do that. And so that whole, killer Bigfoot in Alaska that Ron Moorhead was involved in a special, TV special or whatever, that's Tracon. That is not Janu. Anything violent, anything deadly, anything leading to a human being injured or dead is Tracon. The Janu are God-loving, God-fearing, kind, gentle beings. They would not do that to a human being.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
So I know we're only on for an hour, and that's what the agreement was, Matt. So
I can hang longer if you want me to hang longer, or you can kick me to the curb if you want to kick me to the curb.
I'm not constrained. It's up to you guys. I'm fine. I'd want to hear more.
Yeah, we go for another 30 minutes, I suppose. That's fine. So from my research, my work again, I'm not a clinical psychologist, Matt, but I'm a data miner. That's what I do. And from what I see, there are lots of reports of Sasquatch looking at people and not being bothered with them, not being bothered in one way or another with people. There are lots of reports of the Tracon, as you mentioned. I got to get used to using that word, Tracon. I've never heard that before. But there are lots of reports like that. And I did. Have you read you probably haven't read the Missing 411 books. I come from a law enforcement background, so that is interesting to me in that I'm able to compile this data, this information, and draw out the patterns that I see in here. And one of the things that I mentioned to a Facebook group site was, not everything that you see out there, people missing and all this kind of stuff, has anything to do with Bigfoot and Sasquatches. There's a lot of reasons why this happens.
Correct. Yes.
From my perspective, man, this is what I see. But there are some obvious indicators that show complicity and duplicity with Sasquatch, and it's probably, as you mentioned, the Tracon. This is their behavior. This is what they do. This is their calling cards, their signatures. These are, whatever did this to people, they're proud of it. They want people to see it. They're, it's very interesting. I'm so glad that you came on, and I was looking forward to this conversation because it clears up some stuff with me in my mind. And, in 2014, I had my own sighting, and, from my background, it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy pill to swallow. This is something I've not been used to. I've never seen this before. So I'm glad that you came on, because a lot of people want to diagnose witnesses and people that have the courage to step up and share their experiences and stuff. And that's how we all learn from these different experiences. There's one case in Michigan that I'm very familiar with, that occurred back in 1965, in which a mother and daughter were driving a car. The young girl learning to drive for the first time in 1965. That's how people learned how to drive in that time period. Mom and dad would take them out to the old country roads, the back roads. Sheriffs would turn their face. They seen that. They know that. They acknowledge it. But during the night, during the evening hours, they encounter a Sasquatch coming out of a field. The mother screams. The daughter screams. She locks the brakes up. The windows down. 1965, before there was air conditioning in cars. It was a very hot, humid Michigan summer night, and the Sasquatch, Tracon, grabs the young girl by the scruff of the neck and slams her face against the doorpost of the door, thus leaving a large bruise on her face. And that's the picture of the 16-year-old girl, of the alleged infamous Monroe Monster picture that went all around the world that we see today.
That would be a Tracon for sure.
A Tracon, yeah.
So I'd like to answer these questions that are being asked. The X's, like I said, are the mark of the Janu. It doesn't mean stay out. It means this is our territory. They mark their territory with the X's. The X represents Chi for Christ. They are the people of Christ. So, and then the other question is, how do we befriend them? Well, so Zorth is the head of the Council of 12. The Council of 12 consists of 2 Janu from each habitable continent. So there's 6 habitable continents. Antarctica is not habitable. And they have asked me to, because we helped them with the Exodus and brought over the remaining 23,542 souls that were left, they asked me to be the 13 to the Council of 12, their spokesman, their ambassador, to help educate people about the Janu. So that's why I know so much, because Zorth and I have a never-ending mind-speaking hookup. Matter of fact, he's listening to what we're talking about right now. So no matter where he is on the planet, we can talk to each other via telepathy or mind speak. And Zor said, we're in the trees and the trees are everywhere. So we're in the trees are everywhere. And when he said that, we're talking orb form. They're in the trees. They're in the trees, getting the sunlight, the nutrients through the ground. We're in the trees, and the trees are everywhere. So in the Old Testament, you have the trees of the field will clap their hands, and the trees are singing. They're in the trees. Okay. So how do we find them? You don't have to go out into the wilderness to find them. We're in the trees, and the trees are everywhere. They're in the trees in Central Park in Manhattan. We're in the trees. They're in the trees everywhere. Cultures around the world have legend, oral history of tree spirits or orbs, in the trees, right? So go out into your backyard, turn off the lights, get everything all dark, set up your chair, play some music. They love music. No angry, nasty, negative music. They hate that stuff. But nice music, music with a beat. They like instrumental, they like vocal, they like all genre of music except the nasty, negative. Play the music. Talk to them with your mouth. Talk to them with your mind. If you have trees in your backyard, that's a good place to start. If you're living in an apartment complex, then find a park nearby or go to a nearby state park or your national forest and sit down and start trying to communicate. And so the thing that Zorth told me, that if a kind person with a good heart and an open mind, kind person, good heart, open mind reaches out to us, we will reach back to them. So kind person, good heart, open mind. You could be kind, you could have a good heart, but if you don't have an open mind, you don't meet the 3 criteria. So it's not good enough to be kind and have a good heart. You also have to have an open mind. So you reach out to them, they'll reach back to you.
Dr. J, I have them living around me. And do you think that they were here, I guess, when we moved into the house? Did they, how do I want to explain this? Like, is it something that I was, like they say, marked to have a relationship with them? Or
if a kind person with a good heart and an open mind reaches out to us, we'll reach back to them.
All right.
So are you a kind person with a good heart?
And
do you have an open mind? You come across to me as you do, right?
Yes.
So there you go.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
So that, I guess that makes you marked.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is just amazing. And yeah, the audience is saying great advice. And thank you again for answering the questions. It's just amazing. Wow. Thank you.
Oh, and they like bread products. So we would take stainless steel dog food bowls and surgical gloves, clean them out inside and out, and then put food in there and gift the bowls out 150 feet away from the base camp. And I put bowls out for 5 years before they started taking the food. So this was a process of patience. But surgical gloves, clean the bowls out, put the food out, and it took me a long time to figure out they took the bread products. They didn't take the fruit. They didn't take the meat. They didn't take the nuts. They took the bread products because they can get fruit, meat, and nuts out there if they want it, but they can't get bread products. So they would take the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And for the particular family group I was working with, they wouldn't take white bread, they wanted wheat bread. They wouldn't take crunchy peanut butter, they wanted creamy peanut butter. And they wouldn't take any kind of jam except raspberry jam. And it took a lot of bowls and a lot of attempts to figure that out. Cinnabon rolls, Hawaiian sweet rolls. They love bread products.
I just have a quick little story. I don't give them a lot of like food, but like you said, they don't seem to like, sometimes they'll eat the apples if I gift them, but a lot of times they'll just leave them. But I did leave a loaf of French bread out there, and it was gone. And I thought, well, you never know. They took it or somebody else took it. I don't know, But 2 days later, I went back out, and there was the bread bag was laying folded, and there was a rock on it. So I thought, well, now who's going to do that? It's
Right.
definitely has to be.
Right.
So that's neat. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah. We put pizza out there one time, and they opened the box, and they took the pizza and they picked the mushrooms and the olives off the pizza.
Wow.
And put it in the corner of the box. We also had a dozen eggs, a carton of a dozen eggs, and we would leave it out there because if a critter or a bird was hitting the food bowls, they would decimate those eggs. There's no way they're not going to touch those eggs. So the eggs were a control variable, right? And they never, ever touched the eggs, except one time they took 2 eggs, cracked them in half like you would frying an egg, drank the yolk, and then put one shell inside the other shell and put it back inside the egg carton. What critter or bird's going to do that?
Right. We have a question, Dr. J. Why do people get zapped with infrasound and get sick by it? Why do they do that?
They're okay. Kind person, good heart, open mind, right? So if you have somebody, you have a criteria for the people you want to hang with, and you have a-hole come into your house. Are you going to let the a-hole stay there, or are you going to get rid of the a-hole? Right? And so they will stomp, they'll push trees over, they'll yell, or they'll do a little infrasound, whatever it takes to get you to leave, because they don't want you there. And so, it's their home. You go out there in the forest, it's their home. And if you're uninvited and you're not kind person, good heart, open mind, they don't want you there.
Thank you.
And there's some a-holes that go out into the woods.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't see. No, I think we're.
No, I think that's about it.
Okay.
Thank you. That was amazing.
There we go.
Do you have a book or anything else you want to plug? Take a moment.
I have 2 books. If they go to the website, xanue.com, Xanue, Xanue, Xanue.com, and then they click on the store, they can order the Bigfoot book and then the Xanue book. And you can get them at Amazon.com, either print on demand or ebook form. And if you're going to get the books, please read the Bigfoot book first and the Xanue book second. The Xanue book will not make any sense unless you read the Bigfoot book first.
And where is this available at, Matt?
Again, if you go to the website,
just on the website,
click on the link and it'll take you to Amazon.com. So they're available on Amazon.com.
All right. So,
and then what is your YouTube? You have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel. It is Team Squatchin', no G, Squatchin', but no G, Team Squatchin' USA.
I will put that in
and there's almost 500 videos there. Once again, if you're going to go that route, please start with the oldest video and work your way forward from there. And you'll join me in my journey as I learn stuff along the way, because at the beginning of those videos, I didn't know then what I know now, but you'll see the progression and you'll learn with me.
Okay. That's very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for a great show. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been great.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Of course. So anything else, guys? Do you have anything else that you want to say, Dr. J? Because I feel like we just bombarded you with questions the whole time. Is there anything else you wanted to get across? Any other messages? Or
and some people were like, I want to interact with Bigfoot, right? Well, we've started camps. We have camps at our house. 61 acres on a mountaintop. We have camps in June, July, August, and September. And if you go to the website and you click on events, you can register online for a camp. Now, how much does it cost? $200. If you go on a BFRO expedition, you're going to pay $300, $400, $500, $600, and you got to bring your own food. Where our camp, you pay $200, and the only reason why we're charging that is to give you 8 meals, beverages, and
Oh, wow.
snacks. Okay, so we're actually not making any money off this at all, and it's not our intention to make any money off of this, but we don't want to just buy everybody's food. We think it's at least reasonable that they pay for their own food. So that's why we charge what we charge. If we could charge less, we would. But at the end of the year, we're always in the red because we never charge enough. And we have people that say, you should double that, you should triple that. And it's like, no, we're not doing this to make money. So you could sign up, come to camp, and you could learn a whole lot and have interactions, and maybe, there's no guarantees, but maybe receive a healing as well, like some people have.
That's great.
Okay. That's great.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys.
for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And as Grizzly says, from coast to coast and around the world, have a good night, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. I'm just going to play a little commercial on the way out. So yeah, thanks everybody.